अबे नेट बंद कराए क्या? नेट नेट बंद किया है क्या?
नहीं।
अबे साला कनेक्शन है, अभी इसकी माँ का साइकिल माँ का।
अबे वही लगा।
इसको बंद कर सकता हूँ।
हाँ तो चले फिर। बंद करना है तो बंद कर दे, फैन बंद कर ले।
अबे इस चूतिया को क्यों भेज दिया था? यस सर। ऐसा एक्सपर्ट ज्वाइन कर चुके हैं, ठीक है? ओके सर, स्टार्ट। ओके सर। Yes, yes. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. A very pleasant afternoon to one and all present here. My name is Mukul Singh, currently pursuing PhD from Department of Electrical Engineering, Gautam Buddha University. Is it audible? A very pleasant afternoon to one and all present here. My name is Mukul Singh, PhD Research Scholar at Department of Electrical Engineering, School of Engineering, Gautam Buddha University. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to our online 1 week short term course on the topic Emerging Trends in Power and Energy Systems STC ETPES 2020 to be organized from yesterday, such that 24th of August to 28th of August 2020. The event is organized by Electric Power and Protection Club EPPC and TDEC Department of Electrical Engineering, School of Engineering, Gautam Buddha University. Today we will have two sessions by our distinguished professors from different universities. Firstly, we have on our first session Dr. Navneet Kumar Singh. Dr. Navneet Kumar Singh has done his BTech in 2004 and his MTech in 2006 from Dayal Bagh Education Institute. He has completed his PhD from Motilal Nehru National Institute of Technology, Allahabad in 2016. He is currently working as an assistant professor in Department of Electrical Engineering in Motilal Nehru National Institute of Technology, Allahabad. Dr. Navneet Kumar Singh has a working experience of more than 10 years and he is currently a active member of IEEE. Dr. Navneet Kumar Singh has published more than 35 research papers in reputed journals and international conferences. His areas of interest are power system planning using artificial intelligence techniques. Dr. Navneet Kumar Singh will be conveying us his knowledge on the topic load forecasting, a tool for power system planning. I invite Dr. Navneet Kumar Singh to please conduct the session and continue the session. Thank you very much, sir.
The power system, all the three components, they must be operable, feasibility should be there, then economically viable, the system must be economically viable. It should operate with under the economic load dispatch, the proper generation scheduling, load scheduling, these things must be there. And we cannot ignore the political constraints also. Suppose we are planning one generating station at a place where uh, suppose we are planning one hydro plant at some place. So for that we need to shift the people's living near around the place, because a dam need to be fabricated and we cannot create such kind of power station anywhere. We have to choose a place where the water is available, where we can store the water, we can uh, convert the things, we can install the things, and it should be nearby the requirement, or we can transmit the power. So many things we need to take under the consideration. So planning itself, though it looks a very small term, but it is a very wide term. We need to care for many things whenever we go for the planning. In other words, planning is a strategic, systematic strategy involving engineering and scientific aspects to make a system comparable, so as to fulfill the future requirements expected from the system. The system, when I say system, this system means we are including the power system, we are including the customer, we are also including the government which will operate that, or the nominee of government who shall operate. So the above three terms, technical, economical, and political constraints, all these things, they are included. In most of the places of this, at most of the places, I will include the. I had taken the reference of the source you can see over here. So this source I have considered for preparing this presentation. So what are the steps for power system planning? This is, we need to, because it is an important and careful job, so we need to take care of everything. We need to move stepwise. So first step is to forecasting the future energy power demand. So what is going to be in the future? Because if we don't want to, we are not thinking of the future, then whatever is existing, we have to deal with that only, and that will not be suffice for the future requirement. So we need to know that how much demand will be there. If demand is there, we need to improve or increase the generation. We need to expand our this transmission system, and further the distribution system, the distribution operations, they must also be incorporated. So first thing, we must know the demand, the future demand, and by that we can do the load modeling. Once the data is available, the power demand data is available, we can go for the load modeling. Then this load modeling can be of various types. We most of the times we can go for mathematical models, and sometimes now various artificial intelligence based tools are available. We can use them to load the model. And thereafter, we shall explore the feasibility of generation system and the stations. And we know that now there are several types of generations. They are available. Earlier, we were dealing with the hydro generations and thermal power generation that is more commonly used throughout the world, or especially in our country, we are dealing with this thermal power generation. But other kind of generations, those are renewable generation nowadays we are dealing with. So they are the solar power generation and the wind power generation. And we are not limited with these only. We are having other options also. The other options like thermal, geothermal energy, You have this bioenergy. I'm just holding for some time because this light of camera is irritating me. So I'm just making this camera off. This is fixed webcam camera. Pro. Let's go there. So various kind of generations are there. So we need to explain that what is the feasibility of a generation plant and what kind of fuel we can use. So in the case of wind power plant, so wind is acting like a fuel. We use the wind whenever wind is available as per the cutting and cut out the speeds. We generate the power. So we must know and we need to explore the things like in this direction. Thereafter, optimizing the power plant operation characteristic, we must know the characteristic. We need to optimize that. Suppose we are using the PV power plant or the solar power plant. So in that case, we know that the power is available in the daytime only. In the nighttime, we don't have the power. So we need to optimize it. And for the optimization purpose, we do use batteries that can be charged in the daytime and can be used in the night time. And apart from that, we can arrange it in such a way so that we can do maintenance for our batteries and other generators in the meantime when low load is there, when high load is there, or we are running with the peak load. So we need to use that power which is cheaper to us. There is a high possibility that we are equipped with hybrid kind of generation. So we need to schedule the generations in such a way so that the operational cost can be minimum. So thereafter, we need to explore new substations because if the new generation plants will come into the picture, we will be in the need of new substations. Those substations, they need to be placed at the places where transmission lines are there, intermediate places. Distribution stations will be there, and generating station, of course, they will be there. So we need to think about that, analyze them as per their capacity and the location. And now thereafter, we need to analyze the new power plants, that how many power plants we shall be need, and what will be the capacity of them, and how they will share the requirement or the demand of the customer, future demand. So we shall discuss or think about that. Thereafter, if the generation plant is there, this is not sufficient. We need to think about the expansion of the network. We are thinking the second last point I am discussing. In this second last point, we need to discuss about the expansion. So expansion in the grid terms, that how we shall expand the grid, because whenever we expand the grid, there will be some extra losses, some extra active power, reactive power. These things will change. So how these things will change, and it will put the load on the generation plants. They can be calculated using the AC load flow analysis. If some DC to DC link or DC transmission line are there, then DC power flow, of course, that will be in use. And the last point is not the least, optimizing the overall power system operation by optimizing its element level operation. We shall see and observe element wise that if each element will work in the right direction, so the operating characteristic of the power plant can be improved. So these are the steps, and though it looks very literal, but when we move to the actual field, it becomes too much to implement. So first we shall discuss about the generation planning. So geographical location need to select. Suppose hydropower plant, we shall see that such kind of plant will be selected at a place where water is there. We can store the water. A river is there, or some reservoirs can be formed. And second point is type of generation. We need to think that what kind of generation is cheaper and feasible, and how much is required. So quantity of the fuel is available or not available, or if you locate the plant at that site, so can the fuel be transported to that place, that need to be considered. And what kind of and how many types of generations can be equipped or can be involved in the generating stations. Land cost, important criteria, because if the land normally the power plants, the generation power plants, they are placed by the land on lease. भाड़े पे लेते हैं हम इसको, किराए पे. So land is leased, so we need to think that the cost of or the fare of the land, it must be minimum. Then economically it should be feasible for the power distribution placement in the center of the load area. We need to think that where are the requirements of the power. So we shall try to situate the generation plant at the middle of the or the center of that load area, so that the distribution distance can be made minimum. And with this low transmission distance, we can reduce the transmission losses. And we can also observe the things in more viable or more feasible way, more efficient way. Then reduction in the generation cost. We need to operate. Suppose if we need 80 megawatt of power, generation power. So instead of installing one generator of 80 megawatt, it is better to install 25 plus 25 two generators plus one generator of 30, or maybe 15 two. So this way we can have 4 different generators for 80 equal to 25 plus 25 plus 15 plus 15. So this will help us in generation scheduling, and at the time of low power demand, we can put a few of the generators to the maintenance. So this way our operational cost can also be reduced. And suppose the demand is low, so there is no need to run all the generators. So we can save the fuel cost and operational cost, maintenance cost. So we can deal with many costs, and we can reduce the cost. At last, the exploration for maximum operational efficiency of the generation plant. Always we should try for to see that how the efficiency of the generating plant can be improved. We need to see in that direction the factors we need to identify how the efficiency can be improved. In the general criteria, we deal with the tariff. When we impose more tariff, the uses of electricity reduces. Next is transmission planning. The main issue is economics and reliability of the transmission system. Why? Because this economics, when we transmit the power, we know that there are transmission losses. So we need to deal with high voltage transmission to reduce the transmission losses. If there is some failure in or rather some breakage in the line, so the reliability is lost, the reliability reduces. So we need to take care. Most of the time we see that the transmission persons or the transmission engineers, those people keep on surveying their lines if there any fault or not. So they keep on monitoring the things. So this is one of the issue in the transmission lines normally. So we need to establish the reliability, and economics is one of the parts. We cannot go for the cheaper one always. Also need to think of the reliability. So we need to make a balance between the money and the reliability. So this is one of the main issue. We cannot go for cheaper, and again we cannot go for the expensive one. And the next point is generation expansion pattern need to be considered. How the generation how was the demand, and how we have used our generating station, what was the pattern, at what time, how much power was being generated from the generating station. So the daily pattern we need to study, the weekly pattern we need to study, and monthly, and similar way the yearly pattern we need to study to so that we can plan for the future years, future day, future month, future week. So on the basis of the study we can plan for the future. So the transmission line capability can be evaluated using conventional AC load flow analysis. This point I have discussed. After and consideration of economic generation scheduling to ensure efficient and safe operation in the condition of peak load and off load. So this thing need to be taken care of. The economic generation should be there. See, besides efficient, it should be safe also. And we need to tackle with peak load and off load. This point also I have discussed. Thereafter, distribution planning. Distribution planning is a part of distribution system. It is we cannot ignore it. That we have generated the electricity, we have transmitted. Now there is nothing left to do. No, distribution itself is a very important part of the power system. It has a close relation with the voltage level distribution, because we need to take care for the distribution levels, because we distribute at various levels, 33 kV, 11 kV, and at the domestic level we distribute at 230 kV, and three-phase commercial type 440, 415 volt we distribute. So we need to take care of whether the voltage is available for the customer in the same range or not. This is the responsibility of the distribution point. When we pay the money to them, it is their responsibility to make us avail the 230 volt and 50 hertz supply at our mains, the domestic or our house main or our industry main. So it is their responsibility. They are charging for that, we are paying for that. So it is the responsibility of the distribution side. So to share the electricity up to the domestic end, this is the responsibility of the distribution company. And meanwhile or whatever equipments they are required in between, it is the responsibility of the distribution company. And thereafter, distribution expansion is performed step by step. Of course, we cannot do it at a stretch. Why? Because as soon as we put one additional line, the parameters, the voltage, the P, Q, V, delta, these are the operational parameters, power factor angles, and active reactive power. That PQ are nothing but the active reactive power. So these parameters, they are changed. So we need to taken care of these things as soon as we put one extra line. We need to make these parameters to the normal state by changing the parameters at the generating end, and or if it is going more down, so we need to install more generation, and we can expand step by step. Then economical aspects, of course, they are important. So need to be focused considering least investment. Least doesn't mean that we go for the poor thing. We need to see that how much expenditure is required. So we should be optimized for the expenditure. So we need to think about the life expectancy of the equipment we are installing. Then reliability we cannot ignore. After we need to investigate the distribution system data. Always we need to do for this, and analyzing the load pattern, because as load pattern changes, your line can be live loaded, low loaded, or medium loaded. So these things need to be taken care of, because at the time of high load there are the chances of faults. So these faults need to be taken care of, because faults cannot sustain for more time. They can damage your other equipments also. There are, you might have, you should have listened about the cascading kind of fault. So if one fault is there, you have multiple losses, economic loss. There can be human damage. There can be appliances failure. So several things you need to be taken care of. After power system reliability, so reliability, one thing, just light chali gayi, whenever there is power failure, so means the reliability is less. Whenever so more time power is available, the reliability is high. So we see the reliability in terms of power on or off. So how much time power is available and how much time power is not available. So more reliable means power is more available. But don't think that the power reliability and power quality, they are different things. I will share my experience about that also. So we deal with the live power time, how much time power is there. Environmental parameters are there. Suppose there is thunder time or the winter time, so there are high chances of the line breakage. So we need this reliability reduces. So at that time, extra focus is needed. We need to replace the old components so that the reliability can be improved. And if some new equipment is installed, then average power lifetime or power availability time, it increases. And if the equipment it goes older, then the reliability reduces. These are various formulas normally used, or the factors normally used for measuring the power system reliability. SADI, SAFI, SADI, CADI, and there are, so all these formulas, they somehow reflect you about how much power is available there for you. So if less power is available, then the system is less reliable. Next thing is power quality issues. Earlier in the power system reliability, we have seen that power is there or not. But now if power is there, there may be certain issues. Even if power is available, there can be harmonics, there can be voltage sags, swells, interruptions, and flicker transients. So these are various issues that we can face due to wrong or the bad quality of the power. So various causes are there. Various faults can be there. Whenever we put some extra load or heavy load, we face certain issues. Or whenever we isolate certain area, so that can cause some problem. Or short circuits, various fun kind of faults. So these things are there. It results in various issues. Operation of arc furnace is there. It causes flicker. Then lightning, turning major equipment on off, utility switching, transients are there due to this. And various effects we can observe. I think these are very basic things. I'm leaving it, but important. Of course, power quality is an important topic. So as per the power consumption, we can see that this is the graph of power, global power consumption. Year-wise, I have drawn it. I have collected the data. You can see the source downside of this link, downside of this slide. So you can see from 1980 we were 7,300 around 7,300, 7,300 or so in 1998, and now in 2017 we can see now we are generating 22,347. This is in billion kilowatt hours. So this much power, you can see from the graph that the power generation is continuously increasing, and it is not because we are just developing, so we are increasing the generation. It is because we are in the requirement of large amount of power, because now the development can be observed in terms of the power uses. If a country is using more amount of power, electrical power, that the index of development for that country will be more. So in the case of US, you can see US and China. For those countries, those people, they are utilizing more electrical energy. So now we are developing, and in the case of Indian scenario also, we can see, though I have not taken up the slide for that, but you can Google it, and you can see that the demand on the generation, electrical generation in India, it has also increased. Now in India, you might have seen that we are focusing on renewable resources. The rural part of India, you know that most of the solar panels, they are installed on the rebatable price from government of India. They are supporting to purchase that. In this graph, you might be thinking that this 1990 to 2010, it is going linearly, yeah, but thereafter it is a bit stable. No, this is not the thing. It is increasing on the same pace. You can see the x-axis 1998. There is 10 years difference. You can see in two dots. You can see 10-year difference. But after 2010, I have considered it every year: 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17. So do not think that this is linear at the side. It is going up, because after 2010 we need to note down the value of 2015. So this will be somewhere here. So if it is here, so it will go in the same direction. So it is the power generation is rapidly increasing. Now we know that it is increasing, and we require the power. Our needs, they are increasing. Our dependency, it is increasing. So now the thing arises: what is load forecasting? This is the first step of the power system planning, and this is one of the important tool. Also, I will focus on this, and later on in this lecture, I will be briefing about artificial neural network, which is as per now is the best available tool for modeling a non-linear kind of system. I'm starting with this load forecasting. So load forecasting is a vitally important tool for electric industry in the deregulated economic. These are various definition. I have taken it from various research papers. So in general, load forecasting is to forecast or to identify some future load by some scientific manner. You cannot do like those babas who say bum chik bola, and they say that okay, tomorrow will be that much load. No, this is not the way. We are strictly following the scientific way by which we are in which we do use the historical data. We do consider the aspects or the various parameters who affect the load. So we consider various things who scientifically affect the load. So by considering those things, we forecast the load. Then these are the siblings or the synonyms of the forecasting. At the many places or in many research papers, you might have seen these terms. Few people, most of the places you will see forecasting, but few of the people, they might have used this: prediction, foretell, prognosis, estimation, foresee, anticipate, guess, prophecy, prognosticate. So these are various terms, though there are few differences, a minor difference between if you are say estimation. So estimation is different from forecasting, but people might be using these terms, and somehow in practical they reflect with the same meaning to us. So what is the need of the actual load forecasting though? That is very important. So if forecasted load, suppose in the future, I'm saying after 1 month, suppose we need to forecast or we need to evaluate that how much load will be there after 1 month. Suppose it will be, in actual it will be 100 megawatt, but today if you do forecast today and you calculate or forecast as 120, so now there's one problem in that you are estimating 20 megawatt more. Means you will plan according to 120, but actual then it will be 100. So there will be several issues. We can see that point number 1 is units may have been unnecessarily committed. हमने 20 मेगावाट के 5 अगर हमने जनरेटर लगा दिए तो वो 5 जनरेटर हमारे अननेसेसरीली कमिटेड रहेंगे कि ये हमें उस टाइम पे 120 मेगावाट पावर देंगे. तो द यूनिट्स will be, when I write the unit, so this unit means the generation unit. So generation unit, maybe few of the generation units they may be unnecessarily committed. और वो आसान नहीं रहेगा, वो चलेंगे तो क्या तेल भी खाएंगे, they will need there will be fuel cost और maintenance भी चाहिए उनको. And the second point is expensive power may have been purchased. Now suppose you have forecasted as 120, so but your capacity is 100 megawatt. So what will you do? You will ask someone to provide you 20 megawatt of power to provide at that time after 1 month. So the power which you will purchase from outside, that is always expensive in respect to the power which is available at your home. So the expensive power you will purchase for to meet that 120 megawatt power demand, but in actual that is 100 only. So the purchase of 20 megawatt is a wastage for you. Now third point, overly high real-time pricing might have been quoted, and this will depress your sale. Now you know that we are dealing in the deregulated environment where even the distribution is deregulated now, means the power is being sold by different companies. They sell the power on different price, they quote the power. Suppose you take the example of Delhi, so they now they are purchasing some Reliance, I think they are purchasing from. I have a little doubt where they are purchasing from. So in the last question answer session, I think I will ask your suggestion from where they are purchasing. So, but they have options also. They can purchase from Reliance, they can purchase from Tata, they can purchase from any other body also. So whosoever will provide them the quality power as well as the cheaper power, so they will purchase from them. So now they are free. So you can say that the power is being treated as a commodity, and it can be sold by various sellers. So a deregulation is there. Generating market, the several people now you are free to generate the electricity. Earlier it was there was monopoly. Now even you can generate the electricity and can sell to the grid, but there are certain restrictions and rules. You need to follow those rules. If you follow those rules, of course you can establish your generating plant and you can sell the power. So if suppose after 1 month the actual power requirement is 100 and you have observed or you have calculated it as 120, so what will be there in your mind? That demand is more. When demand is more, then what will you do? You will quote your price as high demand, so you will quote your prices as high. So at that time you will be selling your power as 5.5 rupees per unit, and someone else who has forecasted the price of the power at 5 rupees per unit, so his electricity will be will be purchased by most of the customers, and your sales will be down, so it will depress your sales. And the last point, unnecessary interruptions. Whenever the load and generation, this balance is very important. Whenever this balance disturbs, it always affect the operation of your technically it affects the operation of your generators, and in few of the cases they can be the power failure, or the grid disbalance, or the grid failure. It can reach up to the biggest issue can be there, that is the power failure. So this was one of the aspect when you have forecasted more. This is the second aspect when you have forecasted less. Suppose you have forecasted 80, though after 1 month it is in actual 100 megawatt. So you can see these terms. You can danger the system reliability when you are having less and you are committing for 100. You are having 80. You are committing for 100. What will be then? So reliability will be lost. So system frequency can change. In the worst way, there can be grid failure. There can be economic issues. You may be forced to purchase the spot power, because you have committed to sell the power, so you will sell the power to the customer, and on spot when you come to know that you have estimated less but extra 20 megawatt power is required, so that you will purchase on spot, and the spot power pricing is very, very high. It is very expensive. So there are certain issues which are very, very important. We need to go for the accurate load forecasting. That is very important. So accuracy is one of the important factor in the load forecasting. Then economic aspects, you cannot leave it, or you cannot ignore. In the literature, you can see it in many of the literatures. You will see that an increase in the power estimate of 1% may cause 75 crore Indian rupees additional cost in operation and installation. After, what are the requirements? So for forecasting, we need data, and that data can be taken by the load survey or from the various plants. You can collect the data, and once you have collected the data, you need to model that data. You will build up a load model, and this is the mathematical modeling, and other way around you can draw the data, the past data, and you can extrapolate the future demand. So these things are our requirement. You may need need the past curves, a model, or the surveys you may need to perform. And in surveys you can also include various points, that what kind of customer, what kind of location, what kind of the earning of a customer. So several points you can include in those surveys, and you can collect the data. That data is very important, because if data is not there, you cannot model the load or anything. So what are the factors affecting the load forecasting? So similarity parameters, these are the same as, suppose on Saturday, Sunday, you might have observed the load is low, and this low load is reflecting with because those days the peoples are off, so the demand is less. So normally it is observed that on the off days, on Saturdays and Sundays, the demand is less. So it is related with the day also. And many a times you might have seen that on special days like Diwali is there. So on Diwali you will observe that the load demand will be high, because people light their houses, their buildings, their shops. So the demand for the power increases. Then thereafter, meteorological parameters, temperature, humidity, atmosphere pressure, cloud cover, rainfall, several things are there. Whenever the change, or whenever whenever we go beyond the normal as per our body, when our body need normal temperature, when we run, when we see in the summertime we run AC, and in the winter time we run the heaters. So in both the ways, when the things are abnormal, the power consumption is more. Then demographic parameters means type of locality where you live, the user density, more people, more power consumption, more population, more power consumption, and type of use, what kind of type, if any industry is there in some one of the locality, of course the power uses will be more, the load will be more. Then econometric parameter means type of the customer. Rich person, they will consume more electricity because they will spend the or consume the energy for waste the energy in their luxurious things. So next to it, various ELF models. This is electric load forecasting models. Statistical models are there. Time series forecasting models. A brief idea about time series. Time series is the data. Suppose load I have recorded at time 1. So time 1, load L1. At next instant, time T2, load is L2. At next time instant, T3, load L3. So L1, L2, L3, we have noted down these values after certain time intervals. So L1, L2, L3, dot, dot, dot. This is a time series. This is a load time series. So similar way, we can have the temperature time series. We can have other meteorological time series. So they can be there are time series, and this time series are dealt by various models are available for to deal with this time series data. Box and Jenkins, these were two scientists or mathematicians. They have developed, they have presented various forecasting models for time series. Those models, they were very good, but now the situation is changed. You people might have been thinking that this load forecasting is an old topic. I don't why we are discussing in today's scenario. So of course it is a old topic, but it is still the requirement of present. Why? Because our power system is continuously changing. Earlier, you will see the 10 years before, you will observe that we were not operating on single frequency. Now our India is one country, one frequency, one grid. We have established various DC to DC links. So now we are working on one frequency, and the system is becoming complex. The requirement earlier, you will see that what were your requirement. When I see, I am a medium class person. When I see myself, so I see that at the time of when my father was young. So at that time, I don't have any AC. I was I was living with the simple room fan only. And at the time of my grandfather, they were living without fan. So things are changing, and there are various parameters who affect the load requirements. So end user model are there. The type of user, we can model the load. Then econometric model, AI based models, they are very famous nowadays, but data to data, they cannot work well. So we need to choose out of various AI based models. We need to choose that which AI model is good for it. But of course, we need to optimize your ELF model to provide you the more accurate results and at a faster, rapid speed, because you want to forecast as early as possible, so that you can take the action, the prior action to that is the prerequisite for the system. Then hybrid model. These models, they are good because one particular model or one model alone, they are not working well, or maybe they are working well but they are not optimized. So now we are experimenting with hybrid models. We are optimizing these hybrid models using various nature-inspired techniques, and this way we are developing various electric load forecasting models which are following the characteristic of a good or ideal forecasting model. So now I will brief about this artificial neural network. So as the name suggests, this is the inspired by the neural network. It is existing in our brain. We are having number of neurons. They are connected by these lines or I have model. This is the mathematical model. So the input comes and this input goes to these round things. You can see these circles. They reflect the neurons, and these all these neurons, they are interconnected. This is one of the layer. This, can you see the cursor? This marker I'm moving on the screen. I feel it will be
Yes,
because
yes.
okay. So this is the input layer where input is put, and thereafter this is the hidden layer. There can be, though I am showing one hidden layer only, so but there can be many. And this is the output layer, and this is one of the very basic kind of neural network. This is more multi-layer perceptron or multi-layer feed-forward neural network. This is so within this neuron takes one input, and after functioning it, it provides the output. So this functioning is done on the basis of the relation between input and output. The relation between input and output, normally for the normal data or the load data which we observe nowadays, so this load data is non-linear in nature. So because this is non-linear in nature, now our dependency on electricity is increased. So as the electricity dependency is increased, so the non-linearity is increased, and non-linearity cannot be tackled by the previously present time series models or earlier the curve fitting model or other models. So now we are dealing with the AI based models. So F1, these are the activation function, F1 activation function. In the hidden layer, if there is some second hidden layer, then F2, third hidden layer, F3. Then output layer, FO. Then input activation function is Fi. In normally for this kind of structure, Fi is a linear one, because we want to map this input directly on the first hidden layer. This we did over here. So this X1 is here. This is linear one, so X1 is directly multiplied with this W. So this W1 means the weight of first layer, weight after first layer, and the connection between first neuron and first neuron. This first neuron and this first neuron. You can see the last connection, the weight is W1 means the after first layer, and IJ means for connection between ith neuron to jth neuron. So this way the connection weight need to be decided, because otherwise this X1 will directly map over here. But what we are giving the input to this particular neuron, X1 multiplied by W, this W. So this is the input, but this is the not the lone input for this neuron. What are the other inputs coming from this arrow or this connection, this connection, this connection? So from all the previous connections, the inputs are coming. One another input which is available is the bias. Bias is always +1, and its weight is also there. So it is coming here. It behaves like a DC value, which do not change normally. So y equals to m into x. This is m kind of thing. This is x kind of thing. M into x plus c. So this is the constant. Bias is a constant. So, and we all know that y is equal to mxc is a non-linear system. So non-linear input is there, and again the non-linear kind of transformation through this activation function is there. Thereafter we receive the output from this neuron, and the output is again multiplied by the weight of this connection, and this is W211, and the input is available for this particular neuron, which is the output neuron over here. In this case, we are having two output neurons, And this is not the lone input for this. Other inputs are also coming, and they are summed up and then transformed through F2, and thereafter we receive the output Y1. So this is just the explanation part and or the structural part of this. This is the mathematical model. I can see that we are reaching to 4 o'clock, so I will be a little speed up and I will finish it early. So this is the model where some output can be defined by weight into the input plus the bias into the respective bias input, and the function is also applied. So this way the output is available. You can see this slide and you can analyze it later. In most of the times, the neural network is used for nonlinear things. So nonlinear activation function mostly used, they are sigmoidal or the Gaussian activation function. So what is the role of ANN in electric load forecasting? It is fault tolerant. जैसे हमारे ब्रेन में मल्टीपल कनेक्शन होते हैं, अगर कोई एक छोटा मोटा ऑपरेशन चोट लग जाए, उसमें एक आध कनेक्शन ब्रेक हो जाए, इवन देन वी हैव कंप्लीट मेमोरी, वी हैव अ गुड डेली टू डेली वर्क और ऑफिस वर्क, तो छोटा मोटा चोट से फर्क नहीं पड़ता. तो वही है फॉल्ट टॉलरेंट. अगर कोई नेटवर्क का एक आध कनेक्शन, पूरे नेटवर्क का एक आध कनेक्शन अगर टूट भी जाता है, तो वो अपने आप को रिट्यून कर सकता है, वेट्स थोड़ा बहुत चेंज करके फिर से वो काम कर सकता है. So this is fault tolerant. Massively connected होता है, आप देख सकते हैं. There are too many connections in the neural network, and heavy data processing is this is one of the disadvantages of artificial neural network. Why it is not preferred by many of the researchers, because it takes too much time and it requires heavy processor. It requires heavy processor to work on the parallel work on parallel for the data, and it has the ability to neural network has the ability to learn, because you can put your data, and that data is again repeatedly put to that neural network, and weights are adjusted. Once the weights are changed and it is providing you the correct output, so you can see that it has the ability to learn, and you can generalize it by providing the data which you have not shown to it while the training time. And if such data is exposed to the neural network, and even then the neural network is working good, so you can see it is generalized also, and it can perform for nonlinear tasks, because we are using the nonlinear activation functions in the neural network. So it can provide it can perform on the nonlinear tasks also. And furthermore, it can handle large amount of data that it requires also for the training purpose. But of course, the redundancy of data, it is always ignored. It has a black box nature. Normally, you need to give the data to it. What are the changes in weights? You need not to focus on that. After few of the iterations of providing the data, it will trained up, and any of the time of the experimentation, you need not to focus that what are the weights, and you need not to bother about the weights. It does not require any design knowledge. You just need to throw your data and need it to train. Then robust to tackle the noise present in the processing data, and easy to reconfigure. If any connection is break or some new examples are available, you can throw those examples and you can update the weights. So this way you can make it dynamically learning. Also, this does have that capability. So there are various parameters, structural parameters. In these parameters, you must know that how many hidden layers should be there, how many neurons should be there, number of output neurons, they must be known. And hidden layers you need to select, and activation function for each of the layer you need to select. Then training parameters, training methods. There are several training methods, and training speed is one important aspect. This you need to focus, because if delayed output cannot solve your purpose. Then this is This is a training part. This is training part. Supervised training is there. When you from the system you throw the input data for training purpose. This teacher tells what is the error in the action of this neural network. This is the output. So it observes the output of the neural network and it provides the feedback to the artificial neural network, and therefore it improves in their weights and act as a good boy. After this, there is unsupervised learning where, of course, data comes there, but neural network, there is no teacher to train the neural network, but by using certain adaptation rules, it trains itself. Next is I could not modify this slide, so but I will explain this slide. So there is one another kind of training, which is the reinforce kind of training. Reinforce means whenever output is coming good, so the weights they are awarded. Awarded means the value of those weights it is increased, and if the output is not good, in that case the weights are curtailed, means they are punished. So this way the reinforced training method it works. Yeah, the slide is over here. So I had forgot to delete this slide. Anyway, so this is the Levenberg Marquardt training algorithm. This is one of the famous training algorithm and mostly used. It works upon the back propagation training algorithm. Whatever error is received while training of a neural network, that error is back traced, and based upon the error, if error is more, the curtailment in the weight is more. If error is less, the weights are slightly shifted. Once the output is coming near to the actual one, the weights are saturated, and you can say that your network is trained. So I'm not going in this training method. You can see it in various research papers. This is very important. If anybody is planning to work on the neural network, please go through these. So yeah, these are the properties for ideal forecasting model. It should be adaptive, recursive, computationally economic, robust, and of course you cannot ignore the accuracy. And this computational economy, I want to say that the requirement, the processor requirement, it should be not high. And one point I am forgetting, I forgot to put here, that is the speed or the rapid output. That is one in an important feature. It should be there in the forecasting. Suppose you need to forecast for the next minute. So in those cases, you need to forecast it within the 30 seconds, so that the output after 30 seconds can be used for the prior action before the event occurs. Then model-based classification of electric load forecasting model. I'm leaving it. I have already discussed rather during the discussion. And these are the important points on various load forecasting models. And so first we see the forecasting model in 1918 by Goulart and Wallace. Thereafter, time series models in 1960s, they were presented by Box and Jenkins. In 1917, you will see various state estimation models. ANN based models, though we nowadays also we see, but they were worked more or researched more about 1990s by the researchers. Thereafter, fuzzy based models parallelly investigated, but they were not very preferred because of their they require expertise. Basically, you need to write the rule base in the fuzzy based models. So writing the rule base need heavy expertise that is very expensive for you. So they also did not work well, and they are a bit slow. Even ANN is slow because it required heavy data processing that need time. For the training time is one of the issues. And structural problems of ANN, that is also one of the so several issues. Chronically, you can see that how we have proceeded for the forecasting. And in the last point, you can see that hybrid models with nature-inspired optimization techniques are working good in most of the cases. So this can be, or this is one of the solution for the problem
Yes,
of
sir.
load forecasting.
Yes, sir.
Until now, we can conclude that why load forecasting is important, how we can fabricate a load forecasting model,
Okay, sir.
and by making or by creating one good or accurate forecasting model, we can plan in a good way. We can do the power system planning in the best direction. So this is all from my side, though the time is less. Otherwise, I was thinking or planning for the implementation of MATLAB. I could have show you a few of the operational things on MATLAB, but later on we shall discuss. Later on, if we get a chance, we shall discuss on this. So from my side, any question?
Thank you, Dr. Navneet, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Please. Yeah.
Any questions from any participant? If any participant has any questions, then please unmute yourself and ask the question. I don't think anyone has any questions, sir. So very much thank you, respected sir, Dr. Navneet Kumar Singh, sir, for giving us your valuable time and just sharing your views and lecture on the topic load forecasting, a tool for power system planning. We are very thankful to you, sir.
Mukul, one question is
Yeah,
in the chat box. Question is load forecasting and uncertainty modeling is how compared.
Yes, yeah, now I can see. तो अखिलेश जी, आपका क्वेश्चन है कि लोड फोरकास्टिंग और अनसर्टेनिटी मॉडलिंग हाउ दे आर कंपेयर्ड. हाँ, लोड फोरकास्टिंग आप देख रहे हैं कि दिस लोड फोरकास्टिंग is a non-linear behavior, and most of the times there are certain uncertainties. So in that case, you need to go for the to calculate or to think about the probability kind of things. So probability need to be included on such models when you are dealing with the uncertainty, and that will become the stochastic model. And most of the time, because the factors affect is moreover a stochastic model. So we are not going to compare here the load forecasting or uncertainty modeling because both lies in the same domain. But for the sake of the closer experience of the accurate load, we go for the neural network based forecasting or the other model based forecasting. So that solves our purpose. But if we want to go for more accurate things, we need to include the probability aspect. We cannot ignore it. So I think actually your question is a broad in a broad sense. It cannot be answered in such a small in few words. So it's a good, very good question. Thank you, Akhilesh ji. Thank you.
Thank you, Navneet, sir. Second question is from Harshvardhan. Question is will load forecasting become more reliable and effective with advent of smart grids?
Yeah, of course. Basically, your question is the answer why people are still using the load forecasting, because whenever we go for planning or operation or operational from the operational points of view also, It is important in the smart grids. It is very important because you need to train the things whenever you say smartness. So how you will put the smartness, various agents you need to be framed within the system. Those agents will be trained by the forecasted or past data. So better forecasting model will of course help the those smart grids to operate in accurate manner without any fault. Several other comments are there. Nice session, nice. So I am thankful to all the peoples. I can see 67 people. Sorry, I don't know whether they were more earlier or not. So I am very thankful to all the, especially the organizers. Dr. Omir Singh, he contacted me few days back. Uh, I prepared it. I'm thankful.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you
Saab.
all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now moving onward to our session, we have our next session starting right now. So the next session will be taken by the Dr. Yogesh Bijpuria sir. Dr. Yogesh Bijpuria is PhD in Electrical Engineering from IIT Bombay. He is working with TCS Research and Innovations Lab as a scientist. His research interests include electricity markets, optimization,
अरे
forecasting.
उमेश जी, मैं ये कह रहा था 2-4 मिनट का ब्रेक दे देते भाई। 1.25 घंटा हो गया है लगातार ना डिस्टर्ब तो मेरे।
ओके, 5 मिनट का दे देते हैं ब्रेक।
हाँ, ये इंट्रोड्यूस कर दें। आई थिंक वी शुड गिव एटलीस्ट 5 minutes ब्रेक टू पीपल, दैट विल बी गुड। ओके, मुकुल, यू कैन कंटिन्यू, यू कैन इंट्रोड्यूस एंड वी कैन स्टार्ट।
Okay,
5
sir.
minutes।
So I was talking about our respectable next session member who will be teaching us and sharing his valuable knowledge, Dr. Yogesh Bijpuria. He is from Department of Electrical Engineering, IIT Bombay. He is working with TCS Research and Innovations Lab as a scientist. His research interests include electricity markets, optimization, forecasting, distributed energy resources. He has worked on many research and consultancy projects. He has published 20 plus research papers. He is senior member of IEEE. He has been invited as a speaker in many reputed academic institutions like IITB, XLRI, IITH, etc., and national and international industry forums. We are very happy to we are very happy that Dr. Bijpuria is with us to give his valuable lecture on the topic pro-summerism in distribution system. This lecture will start in 5 minutes. We will be right back in after a short break of 5 minutes. Thank you. The session will start at 4:20 p.m.